This is a completely normal Blender cube. Today, I'm going to add as many modifiers to it as possible. There are a few rules. I have to start with one default cube, go through the modifiers in Blender's default order, and I can't change the settings. If a modifier needs extra objects or complicated setup, I'm skipping it. And the challenge ends when my computer finally gives up. So let's see how far we can get. Starting with array, looking pretty nice. Now bevel, already looking a little less like a cube. Boolean does absolutely nothing, and it needs extra parts anyway, so that's getting skipped. Decimate is supposed to clean things up, but I can't really modify it without changing the rules. Mask is just going to hide parts of the mesh, so that's another skip. This is starting to look a bit like a caterpillar. Multi-resolution also requires tampering, so we're skipping that too. Which is probably for the best, because that would absolutely nuke my computer. Next is remesh. This basically rebuilds the geometry and merges things together. Honestly, that's helping me a little bit. And now, screw. I have absolutely no idea what this is going to do. This one's going to be interesting. And, what is that? It looks like cheese. There is actually a cheese rolling competition in Edinburgh where people chase a wheel of cheese down a hill. The first person to reach the bottom gets to keep it. Apparently humans will do anything for cheese. Anyway, back to Blender. Subdivision surface. That's made it look even more cheesy. Triangulate. This is basically tessellating the mesh. You're normally supposed to do this near the end, not halfway through destroying an object. But honestly, it's not looking too bad. I expected it to be much worse by now. Next up is weld. This should clean up some of the geometry. And you know what? I could probably stop here and call it a day. But there's one more. Wireframe. This is probably my least favorite modifier because it completely changes the object. And, yeah, that's going to take a while. This looks like a sea mine. Or some kind of extremely aggressive bath toy. And the inside is even stranger. It looks like a beehive. If you've played Hollow Knight, the inside is giving me a little bit of Deep Nest. It's got an outer ring of spikes and an inner ring of spikes. For something that started as a cube, this has gone surprisingly far off the rails. Next is cast. This should hopefully make it a little more rounded. I know bevel is supposed to make things more rounded, but cast is going to. Well, it has definitely done something. At this point, I'm going to break one of my rules. I know I said I wouldn't change the settings, but this is taking so long to render that I'm changing the factor slightly. Otherwise I won't actually be able to finish the video. 6 hours is a funny number. I definitely did not mean to get 6.7 as a number. Now we're getting a perfect sphere. Which is pretty funny considering this started as another one of Blender's mesh primitives. It's basically the circle of life. Cubes become spheres. Spheres become cubes. And apparently cubes also become cheese. There is some really weird overlapping going on here. It looks a little bit like a bath bomb. I'm going to enable matcap so I can see the normals and vertices more clearly. I really should have done this earlier. And, oh, I'm only about 400 vertices away from 9 million. That's probably not something you want to hear when you're using a laptop. This is basically turning into a computer benchmark. Now we're moving on to the deform modifiers. Honestly, most of these aren't going to work without extra objects. I think the only ones I can use without adding anything are cast and wave. Hook needs another object. Lattice needs another object. Mesh deform needs another object. Most of these are immediately disqualified. I don't even understand how simple deform works. The only time I've used it was when I somehow managed to use it to make wings out of job applications. Don't ask. Wave, however, I can actually use. And now the computer is starting to sound like it's reconsidering its career choices. The viewport is getting really slow. But my computer hasn't died yet. So I'm keeping going until it does. Still going. And, wait, that looks like a pear. Actually, no, that's a kiwi. We have officially gone from a cube to a kiwi. I did not plan this. But I'm absolutely keeping it. This is now the best screensaver I've ever made. And it looks a little bit like an eyeball too. In science, I once dissected a pig's eyeball. It looked a lot like this. Although there was considerably more blood. Anyway, back to Blender. The normals should hopefully clean up some of this horrible spottiness. Come on, give me something. Yeah, That looks much nicer. That's a piece of modern art right there. And now we're generating some hair. Because apparently this kiwi needed hair. This is the last section I'm going to attempt because the physics modifiers would require external objects and simulations. At this point, I think the cube has suffered enough. We started with a completely normal cube. And after throwing a ridiculous number of modifiers at it, we ended up with this. A fuzzy, spiky, slightly horrifying kiwi. And the final vertex count was 8,999,613. That's almost 9 million vertices. From one cube. I think that's enough. My computer survived. The cube definitely didn't. And somehow, we made a kiwi.